This is a true story about an abandoned baby from a maternity hospital and a nurse who changed his world. There was a regional hospital in a small town where everyone knew each other. It was inconspicuous, but real miracles took place within its walls. However, there was a sad atmosphere in one of its branches. It was a ward for newborns, where small lives were fighting for attention and care, and one of them, little Maxime, was abandoned. Maxime was born premature and weak. His mother, unable to cope with the difficulties of motherhood, left him in the hospital, hoping that someone else would take care of the child. But the reality turned out to be harsh. The boy spent his days in an empty ward, surrounded by other kids, but without love and care. He had no one to hold him in his arms, whisper gentle words, or just smile. Every time the nurses passed by, they looked at him with pity, but they didn't have time to pay attention to each child. Maxime felt lonely and abandoned. He didn't understand why no one approached him, why no one hugged him. But one day, a new volunteer named Katya came to the hospital. She was a young nurse and was just starting her career. Her heart was full of desire to help others, and she decided to become a volunteer in order to genuinely take care of those who needed it. When she first entered the room, Maxime immediately attracted her attention. He was lying in his crib, alone and defenseless, with sad eyes full of tears. Katya went up to him, and seeing his condition, felt her heart tighten. She realized that this baby needed love, and she couldn't pass it by. She gently lifted him up in her arms and hugged him to her. Maxime, as if feeling warmth, began to calm down. At that moment, there was a connection between them that changed everything. Every day, Katya came to the hospital to take care of Maxime. She not only fed him and changed diapers, but also talked to him, read books, and sang songs. She genuinely loved him, and the feeling became mutual. Maxime began to feel that he was not alone, that someone was taking care of him. However, despite Katya's best efforts, the system was indifferent. The baby was still going to be sent to an orphanage, where a cold and soulless world would await him. Katya couldn't accept the thought. She decided to fight for Maxime. She knew that if he was sent to an orphanage, he would be left alone and defenseless again. Katya began to communicate with doctors and the hospital administration, trying to convince them to leave Maxime under her care. She told them about her desire to adopt him, how much they had already been through together, and how he needed constant love and care. But her requests were constantly ignored. The system was adamant, and Katya felt trapped. But she wasn't going to give up. She began to collect documents, study the adoption process, and seek support from her colleagues. She knew that the fight would not be easy, but her love for Maxime gave her strength. She spent her days and nights finding information about how to change the fate of this baby. Soon Katya turned to a charity that helped people in her situation. She told her story and asked for support. A team of volunteers, touched by her perseverance and dedication, decided to help her. Together they collected the necessary documents and began the adoption process. Time passed, and finally the day came when Katya was able to obtain permission for temporary custody of Maxime. She couldn't hold back the tears of joy. The baby will finally be with her, and she will be able to give him the love and care he deserves. When Katya took Maxim out of the hospital, she felt that her heart was overflowing with happiness. She knew that there were many difficulties ahead of them, but she was willing to go through everything for him. The first time in the new house was not easy. Maxim, even though he was with Katya, still felt fear and insecurity. He didn't know what it was like to be loved, and sometimes it was difficult for him to get used to the new conditions. But Katya was patient. Every day she told him that he was loved, that he could always trust her. She created a cozy environment full of love, and gradually the baby began to open up. Katya enrolled Maxim in kindergarten, where he could communicate with other children. She tried to create a space for him in which he could develop and feel safe. Gradually, Maxim began to trust Katya, and their bond became stronger. But soon Katya faced new difficulties. She began to notice that Maxim was sometimes aggressive towards other children. It was a surprise to her. She understood that his abandonment had left deep marks on his psyche, and now she needed to help him cope with these feelings. Katya decided to contact a child psychologist to sort out the situation. The psychologist suggested several methods that could help Maxim learn how to express his emotions. Katya began to conduct special classes with the boy, where they painted together, played role-playing games, and discussed his feelings. Gradually, Maxim began to open up and share his experiences. He talked about how scared he was when he was alone, and how he dreamed of being loved. Katya felt that their bond was getting stronger. She understood that love and patience can work. Real miracles. Every day, spending time with Maxim, she saw how he was changing. His laughter became more sincere, and his eyes became brighter. However, as in any story, their happiness was not without challenges. Soon Katya faced some difficulties in her work. Some colleagues did not believe that she would be able to combine the duties of a nurse and motherhood. They doubted her ability to take care of Maxim, and this upset her greatly. But Katya wasn't going to give up. She continued to work, despite the difficulties, and took care of Maxim, showing him that he would always come first. She understood that her struggle was not only for his future, but also for her own happiness. A year after the adoption, Katya got the opportunity to tell her story in a local newspaper. She wanted to inspire other people, to show that love can change lives. Her story about Maxim touched the hearts of many, and soon she and the boy became famous in their city. People started contacting Katya to hear her story, and she was happy to share her experiences. She understood that her path was not only her personal struggle, but also an opportunity to help others. She started organizing meetings and seminars for those who wanted to volunteer or adopt children. Maxim, who was once abandoned, has now become a symbol of hope. His story inspired many people, and he learned to appreciate every moment. Together with Katya, he became part of a large movement aimed at helping children left without parents. Katya continued to work at the hospital, but now her attitude to work has changed. She became more sensitive to the needs of other children, realizing that each of them could face similar challenges. She taught her colleagues how important it is to pay attention to each child and show that they are not alone. A few months passed, and Katya and Maxim's life continued to change for the better. They have become more active in the community, participating in various events and campaigns aimed at supporting orphaned children. Katya organized charity gatherings, which were attended by people who wanted to help. She could see how her efforts were bearing fruit, and it gave her strength. One day, during one of these actions, a woman approached Katya with a request. She said that she has several things for the children, and she would like to give them to the orphanage. Katya warmly thanked her and offered to help with the organization of the gathering. This meeting inspired Katya to come up with a new idea. She decided to create a platform where people could share resources, experiences, and support for children in difficult situations. She began working on creating a website that would bring together families, volunteers, and charities. Time passed, and the website became successful. Katya received a lot of feedback from people who wanted to help and share their stories. She understood that her efforts were not in vain, and that every step towards goodness could be the beginning of big changes. Maxim, who was once abandoned, has now become a symbol of hope. He grew into a happy and confident boy who dreamed of the future. His story inspired many people, and he learned to appreciate every moment. Every day their lives became more intense and full. Katya felt that her life had found meaning, and Maxim had become her main inspiration. Every time she looked at him, she realized that their bond would always remain strong. The story of Katya and Maxim is a reminder that even in the darkest corners of life, light can appear. Each of us is capable of taking a step towards goodness, which will be the beginning of great changes. Together they proved that love and compassion can change destinies and give hope to those who need it.